From the station that made country music famous, 650 AM WSM, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Hi, it's Charlie Mattos, and in this episode, we visit with CMA, ACM, and Grammy Award winner Miranda Lambert. Got to visit with Miranda a few days in advance of the release of her album, Wildcard. We met at Audio Productions on Music Row in Nashville, Tennessee. We chat about the new record. We chat about living in New York, the house that built me, getting an incredible honor, and a lot more. This is our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast with Miranda. 650 AM WSM, the music of Miranda Lambert. The new album, Wildcard, comes out on Friday. It's so great to visit with Miranda Lambert. You know, I can remember going to Grimey's to purchase The Weight of These Wings, your last studio album. Purchased it on vinyl, triple album. That was such a great record. But I'm curious, do you feel pressure to up the ante every time? I mean, do you find yourself competing against yourself?
I do, but I feel like I have to compete with myself, but also there's a freedom in having some success. Like, I feel like after Platinum, I did have some pretty good success with that record, and then my life took a turn, so I felt like artistically I could take a turn because, number one, it's what I needed to do, and number two, you know, I really am a songwriter at heart, and I moved to Nashville during the time of making The Weight of These Wings, so I just was around the writers more than I ever had been. So I don't look at it as competing with myself as much as like just making sure that I'm being authentic to who I am at the time. You know what I mean? I mean, who I am as a person and as an artist is pretty steady, but reinventing artistically and all the things we try to do, I just want to be a reflection of what I'm actually living in my life, you know, because I think that's the foundation I started my career with, and so I have an obligation to keep that going.
Yeah, well, it shows. And the cool part is, and I've gotten an advance on this, so I was actually able to listen and truly listen from start to finish several times over, and it really is a terrific record.
Well, thank you so much. I take a lot of pride and care to craft an album that takes you on a journey, and I did the same with my set list because that's what life is doing to all of us. So I try to have something for every emotion and every kind of phase on all the records. You know, I don't like filler. I like every song to have a place. Even if it's messing with my head, it just kind of makes you want to headbang a little bit and then move on. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate saying that because it's important to me that my music takes people on an emotional journey.
Well, I was excited to see that there's going to be a great vinyl pressing on this as well. I love the red vinyl, but you do seem like someone who appreciates the album in the proper sense.
I know, old school.
No, it's a great thing.
I'm still romantic about full albums. I still want to hear my favorite artists from top to bottom and see where they've been the last couple of years. You know, it's like a look at it. It feels like seeing an unfinished painting to me if you skip around. But I know that's not the new way, so I'm glad to be heard in any way, really. I mean, I also hope that if someone hears Bluebird on certain playlists, that maybe they would go seek out some other songs on the record, and then maybe they would join us on the Like Me and You Like to Listen, you know, whole thing. But the sequencing, we kind of cut it in that order, to be honest. And it's interesting because when I was texting Jay one night, I was like, we got to sequence this thing. He was like, I think it is. And I kind of knew I wanted Dark Bars last, but we cut White Trash first and Dark Bars the last day. So really it goes in order of the mood of the studio, which I kind of loved.
You obviously spend and have spent a lot of time in Nashville, but anybody who's certainly kept up on your career knows you've spent a lot of time in New York recently too, and it's truly one of my favorite places on earth. I am one of those people who kind of finds peace in the chaos of New York City. But I'm curious just your thoughts on all the time you've gotten to spend in New York lately.
I think if you're open, I've been in New York several times. I mean, 30, 40 times, but it's always been to work, you know, just kind of go in, do your press, leave. I never really had the opportunity or want to be honest, to just go hang. And my mom and all her friends every Christmas go to the Christmas tree lighting and they go Christmas shopping and exploring the city. And I just have always turned it down because I thought it's too loud, it's too hectic. But going just as a person without having to work and just embracing the idea that you could just get lost in this city full of people. It was really cool and eye-opening. And to me, it's still like I'm wide-eyed and bushy-tailed because I'm from a tiny town in East Texas. I've lived in Oklahoma for 8 years and now live in Nashville, which Nashville's like my second home anyway. So, you know, when I moved here, it didn't feel any different. I've always been coming here. And so New York, though, is such a different... I'm still like country come to town. Like I still don't know how to navigate it. I'm still terrified of the subways, but I was really open to just like spending my days wandering and meandering and being in Soho. We had a place in Soho and that's so artistic. I mean, there's from the street art to just popping in a bar, hearing a cool band or hearing some jazz or a rock club. It's, if you're open to it, that city can really give you a lot. And then it's time to go home. I mean, there definitely is a boundary for me on how long I can stand the noise and the simulation. And then I try to gather up what I can and then take it home and sort through it. But I definitely wouldn't have written a song like Fire Escape had I not been right in the heart of embracing all that NYC had to offer.
And I've always loved that as big a place as it is and with so many people, you can be anonymous. There's a great anonymity.
Yeah, you can just be, it's funny because you can be as lonely as you want, even if you're surrounded by people, or you can be as in it as you want and meet strangers. Or I get recognized some, but everybody was cool about it. It was very a pleasant experience. I do love that city, and it's dangerous though for my jean size. Food's delicious.
Oh gosh, yeah, you got that right. Thankfully, it's a great walk-in city. It was just a few weeks ago that you and Tom Douglas and Alan Shamblin were presented with the ACM Song of the Decade honor for The House That Built Me. That had to be pretty amazing.
House That Built Me is one of those ridiculous special songs. It's once in a lifetime, and I'm so thankful that I do think that was the right home for it, but I'm just so thankful that I got to have it because it's one of those things where you hear it and you think, I mean, you instantly start crying like, wow, how do they know my life? And then that's why it is The House That Built Me, though, because everyone feels that way when they hear it. It just brings something so strong up in you. And, you know, I think it's one of those songs that, you know, it's the perfectly written country song to me. And it was a lot of pressure to cut it because I knew how special it was and I wanted it to be right. So the fact that we kind of did it acoustic was also a bold move, and then try to release it on radio with no drums was like, is this going to work? And it was, you know, like a 4-week #1, which is crazy, especially for my career. So I'm so glad the writers were lifted up in that being the song of the decade, because I'm just a vehicle. Those guys really pinned something so special that will go down in country music history. I think that song will. And so I'm just glad to be there and like pose for the picture and sing it every night, because every night, you know, a song's special when you're on stage and all the lights go up and you don't ask for it. Well, it used to be lighters, but you know, now it's flashlights on the phone. Some lady held up a real lighter though the other night and I got so excited. I was like, I love you.
Oh, that's great.
But you know, every light in the whole arena's on, and it's like, I didn't ask for that. Everybody just felt it, and you just get chills. You know it's special.
Oh, I'm old enough to remember holding a lighter while Paul McCartney sang "Hey Jude." You can burn your thumb off during that song. I'll leave you on this note. Listening to the album and getting to visit with you, it seems like you're just in a really great place, content with exactly where you are, both professionally and personally, just kind of at peace.
That's really such a compliment, and thank you for saying that, and thanks for noticing. I mean, it's, you know, when you're early 20s, like I was like, I have something to prove. Y'all listen to me. I'm gonna burn everybody's house down. It's gonna be awesome. You know what I mean? Like I was just a lot, and because that's what gets you there is that fire. But I realized too, like as you go through things in your life, I truly think pain sort of resets you a little bit in a good way. I mean, it sucks at the time, obviously, but then it forces you to sit in the quiet and face yourself. And, you know, I've not ever been comfortable in my 20s really with silence and quiet. I was just constantly filling my space with things or people or projects or starting a band or opening a store or doing something. And I think that's how I used to recharge, was noise and things to do. And now I recharge by quiet and but I think I had to get there. It takes a long journey to get to where you're okay with yourself and just silence. And and also just being honest with whatever I'm doing is public. So I kind of have to go through it with everybody watching. But now I feel like I'm really okay with where I am, and I'm not afraid of like hard things because I know that you can get through it. And I also know that, some of my goals, someone asked me earlier today what are my new things I want to check off the list. And part of those are career oriented. Entertainer of the year would be great one day. I don't care how long it takes. I also got 30 more years to wait. That's fine. But I also have a lot more like life goals than I used to have. Like, I just want to enjoy my surroundings and not rush through everything. And, some nights when I'm on stage and the whole crowd's like swaying their hands and all kinds of kinds, I like stop and I soak that in, because used to it's like next city, next.
Thanks for listening to our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Our digital program director is Jay Patrick. Our digital producer is Haley Hall. Marketing and promotions director, Nicole A. Judd. General manager of 650 AM WSM is Chris Kulik. I'm Charlie Mattos. We'll see you next time on our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast.